you are watching this AI craziness happen. You've worked at one of the great startups in history, and you decide, I want to create my own startup, but I want to do it with this. I want to actually write the code or be the developer. And you emailed me, and I was like, well, that's rad. Yeah, build the product yourself. Cool. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your philosophy of building this startup Wave, an AI note-taking app, and then just show it to us.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've always been developer adjacent. No one's ever paid me to code before, but working at startups, particularly in like e-commerce, not like a little bit at Uber, but mostly the other jobs that I've kind of done over the years, I've been near engineers. And I think I've always had a bit of a like envy. And the reason for that is I always felt like they are the ones with their hands on the thing, doing the thing. And particularly in startups, and there's not that many people, and everyone is rather self-driven, there's decision-making there about what to build, how to build it, that I always have kind of envied. Like I can weigh in, I can write a memo, whatever, but actually doing it, is a different thing. And so I've taken a bunch of like, Udemy classes, like YouTube things over the years, and I've had little increments of getting somewhere, but really never actually getting there. It's a cliche, but when ChatGPT, the very first one, the sort of original in like November 2022 came out, the first thing I started doing is asking questions about the code. Like, hey, I'm trying to make a website in Next.js. How does this work? And found that it really worked well for me as like a question and answer. How does this work? How do I do it? And it'll answer right away. A bunch of questions I was probably asking to engineers that I worked with, maybe one a day or one a week. Now I can do like one a minute and just start like really mainlining information. And not only that, but I also found that it actually could help me write the code itself, like not just teach me, but actually pair with me, and I can kind of guide it. Like engineering is taking a problem and breaking it up into the tiniest increments and solving each increment and putting it together and you have it, right? And so it was sort of like, okay, this thing can help me like build magical things. And so I'll put a pin in that, for 1 second. Like around this time, AI, it's a big AI moment. I was kind of like into deep learning and learning about that 5 or 10 years ago. And I always sort of thought it like they'll never actually call this AI. It's deep. But anyway, like AI is the thing. In this AI era, I found there's sort of all these demos coming out all the time. Very cool demos. But there's many of them, or most of them, are either web-based or they're sort of demo-ish in nature, like install this Docker container and then run this like Python script and then it'll do the magic thing. There's like all these ways to like very sort of artificially generate the like magic in an environment. But like, I believe that life's most important moments happen away from your desk, and that most normals are not at a computer all day and they're not on Twitter and reading about AI and trying the demos. And it's like, what is the AI that my 70-year-old dad is going to use, And so there is no, and similarly, there's no shortage of ways, even then, but especially now, there's no shortage of ways to record your Zoom and record your Meet and record your Hangout and Teams and all this, but like just very little for the real world. That's more than just a demo, a proof of concept. I'm like, what would it look like if I made an audio recording app and just like got feedback and just started adding features that people say and sort of intuiting things like, it seems like if I do all the like transcription on the phone, it'll take too long. Like, what do I do? Like, servers. Like, I didn't really know about that. Like, I knew the word, but I didn't really know how it worked. Cloud functions. I'll learn how to do that. And so it's sort of been like a walkabout of trying to figure stuff out with brute force. I have 2 kids. I have a semi-busy life with them. I love working remotely. And so the idea was like, okay, like, wouldn't it be fun to just see how far can I get this on my own before it, without hiring, I could easily drive this off the rails, hire a bunch of people, maybe raise money, maybe not, like do a whole thing. But like, what about just like tying my hands and like just saying, I'll only do what I can do personally. And so I made a few different little like mini apps, and this was the one that people were interested in. I think the real clicking point for me was when my dad brought it to a doctor's appointment and recorded it and then got a summary of what was discussed. And that was much deeper. Just in the moment, things happen and it's good to record. And so, yeah, it was like, okay, like let me do audio recording. And then I added phone call. So you can kind of like make a phone call through the app and it records the phone call. Or maybe I'll import podcasts. I can import you into the app and get a summary there. like, okay, people want to share out of the app. How should we do it? We'll share to Notion, and we'll share to like a web URL, and just sort of like really just kind of having a good time. And I like to say, like, skyscrapers look like holes in the ground for a very long time. And then suddenly they start to shoot up. And not that this will be a skyscraper, but I have found like it started really small. And people in my life were like, oh, it's Josh's little like retirement project. I was like, well, actually, like I'm taking this really seriously and I'm working full time on it. And people who live with me know that I'm like going Josh Moore style on this. Like I'm just turning it up to 12 and like hammering on this until it's good enough.
Yeah.
And found some friends who would humor me and like tried and just sort of polish and, you know, rebuild until it kind of works. And now it's the subscriber volume is like roughly doubling every month. It's really kind of insane. And the most exciting thing I think I've ever done, even more than Uber, because it's like, it's just me. It's like me versus the world. And I have all these customers. And if they chat in the app, it goes to my phone. It's just like there is for the first time, nothing standing between me and consumers of the thing that I'm building. And that is, for me at this point in my life, very good feeling and something that I'm really enjoying.
Let's demo it. Let's take a look at what you built here.
Yeah. And if you're listening at home and not seeing the video, basically you're looking at a screen that says all recordings, all waves, and each row is sort of like in a traditional Apple style with summary. So I'll just start to record, and this could be I am doing a brain dump or I'm in a meeting. I actually, in preparation for this podcast, I was taking a walk somewhere and I recorded about 10 minutes of myself giving my bio. And then at the end, got a summary of that and sent it over to you guys. So I've been speaking for about, it'll be almost about 30 seconds. If you're watching the video, you see like an indicator wave that there is sound coming out. And when I'm done, I'll just press stop and it'll transcribe this in the cloud rather quickly. And then it will summarize it. And so there is the transcription right there. And then we'll probably have a summary in about 10 or 15 seconds. This will be like GPT-4 style. So it's up. The speaker discusses their use of a recording feature, possibly within an app or device, or capture their thoughts or conduct a brain dump. The summary goes on a bit. It's on the screen now if you want to check out the video. But that was a 20-second, and then I can listen to it. I can share it either in a URL or a Notion, or I can do some changes to the format, or I could even change the language. Let's say I want to send this to someone in Italian. It'll reprocess the summary and transcription in Italian. So, what are people using this for? It is a lot of meetings not on Zoom, but sort of in their office. I have a guy recording all his sermons at church. So here is the summary that I just did a second ago it's in Italian now, if that's useful. So that's it. And basically just to give you some
phone call idea seems like the killer one. Is that what people are buying it for? Because I know sometimes you want to record a call and you just want to make a quick phone call, record it and share it. And then obviously, depending on the state you're in, could be two-party consent, could be one-party consent. I remember in New York as a journalist, I believe it was one-party consent, so we could record calls without a problem.
Yeah,
when we're talking to people.
Yeah, and look, it should go without saying that anyone using this anywhere should be aware of the local laws, and it is not intended to be a secret. So for recording phone calls, you can't actually, like in the phone app, if you're using the phone app on your iPhone, there isn't actually a way to record a phone call. So what this does is it's a redirect. First, you basically verify your phone number so that we know that it's you. And then you make a call through the app. And what that does is it calls you first. You pick up and it says now connecting. And it calls the other recipient with your phone number as the ID. So to them, it feels like a normal phone call. And to you, it's a redirect. The phone feature is a big one. It's not most of the action. I think it's poorly marketed and frankly a bit clunky. People will make a phone call and then press the red button, and why not? Like the red button is right there. So there's
and then they'll stop the call by hitting the red button.
That's right. It'll kind of screwed up. So, I'm doing roughly at this point about 15,000 minutes a day. And I'd say, 500 of them are phone minutes. And so it's still pretty small, but it is growing as a segment faster than the overall thing. So it's sort of like when we started UberX, we still love the main Uber, but we introduced something new because people might want to try that. And then, you could put it into folders and there's all sorts of settings you can do and all this. And that's it.
And you got 200 people to pay for this already. And you're at 100,000 in ARR already.
So yeah, that's when I pinged you last week. So I'm actually at 130 ARR now, and I have about 500 paid subscribers. It is roughly doubling every month. So the numbers are feeling fun and silly.
Almost able to cover your salary. I mean, a couple more doublings and you hired a developer. Or if you are using, non-US developers, you've already hired 2 or 3. So congratulations.
To be honest, of all the parts of it, and again, I came up in a marketing and ops background. I started selling on eBay in 1998 from a computer at my high school in a computer science seminar that I wasn't paying attention to. So I sort of right turned when I was on the computer engineer path and sort of right turned into marketing. But I think this actually might be where I'm going to be for the long haul. So I don't know that I'm going to hire someone. I have so far every bit of code, this whole thing is I've done all of it. And I have a lot of pride in that. And part of this, of thinking that this is even feasible, and really why I reached out, is that you have talked about this of
many times.
Era of the solopreneur. And it could be, there were always brilliant engineer types who would then dabble in the marketing side and put together their own thing. I don't think there's a lot of examples of a marketing or business side exec
doing the code. No, this is going to be the revolution.